What's up guys, it's good to see you. I'm George Martinez. You're watching Chasing Folklore, a channel about travel and all things creepy. And today we're going to be doing another story time. And this story time includes a story that has two elements of Costa Rican folklore. Earlier this year, Shizel and I went to Costa Rica, and we went because I wanted her to meet my family and spend time with them. So we went over there, and this was before we even had the camera that we have now, and we took just videos with our phones. I'm going to show you a little bit of our trip. So here it is. So the story that I want to tell you guys today has to do with the Duran Sanatorium. The Duran Sanatorium is a place in the province of Cadejo in Costa Rica that was supposed to be a hospital, and it treated people who had tuberculosis back in the day. This place was opened in the 1900s, and it treated about 300 people. This place served as a hospital, it served as an orphanage, and then later on it served as a prison. To add to the creepiness factor of this place, this sanatorium is usually covered by fog, and that is because of the high altitude and the nearby volcano that it's on the way. So this place is actually really creepy. I have some pictures of it, and actually Shizel and I spent some time in the sanatorium when we went to Costa Rica not too long ago, and I will show you the clip of the sanatorium right here. Many people have said that the sanatorium is actually completely haunted, and that is because there's been sightings of little children running around. People have heard whispers. They've seen kids on top of the roof just hanging out, or just visions of people. They've also seen, according to some legends, a nun walking around the property. And honestly, after seeing that movie, after seeing the movie The Nun, if you guys haven't seen it, you absolutely have to. It is literally one of the scariest movies I have ever seen. I'm telling you, this movie is just nightmare fuel. It's one of the scariest things ever. And if you guys go watch it, let me know what you think. Comment down below. Let me know if you guys think it's scary or anything like that. But just the fact that people have said that in that sanatorium, there's a nun walking around, it honestly reminds me of that movie, and I can only picture it, and it just looks like the scariest thing I have ever seen. We're just walking around the sanatorium in Costa Rica. So I really like this story, and that's because it has elements of the sanatorium, and it actually takes place in the sanatorium, but it also has elements of a really popular Costa Rican urban legend, and that is the legend of El Cadejo. If you guys don't know what El Cadejo is technically a dog, or at least it's a black dog. It's a huge black dog with crazy just fangs and sharp claws and devilish red eyes. Apparently the dog carries chains around him. There's like chains all around his body, and he drags them as you hear him in the night. So the story says that if you're out at night, you're out drinking, or you're doing something, then you have to get home. If you hear chains coming, well, it's already too late. That means that probably El Cadejo is around, and he's gonna get you. So some stories say that El Cadejo will actually accompany you home, and he'll be nice to you if he thinks that you're a nice person, or he might just come for you, try to kill you, and drag you back to hell, which is, you know, just complete polar opposites of what can happen to you, according to the story, according to the legend. But the thing is, I guess the moral of the story in every Costa Rican legend is basically don't go out at night, or don't be out in early morning, or walk alone by yourself, or be walking alone drunk, or don't do anything dumb, technically. The legend of El Cadejo talks about a young man who he didn't do anything. He didn't like to work, he just partied all day long, and his father was just sick of him. So one day, his father asked him to go work with him in the fields. This is back when there was a lot of farming. There is still a lot of farming communities in Costa Rica, but this is specially dedicated to stories when farming was all there was. So he brought his child to the fields to work with him, and he thought he was gonna do well, he was gonna redeem himself, you know, and work hard that day. The boy's father was working separately from him, so they were in different directions. So at one moment, his father went to check to see if the boy was doing well in his work, and he actually found him sleeping. His father got really angry and just started telling him that he was lazy, started cursing at him, and his eyes became red with rage. At least that's what the story says. And because of all this happening, he actually cursed his son and told him that as he's laying right now, as he's sleeping in all fours, he will for his whole life lay in all fours and will have to suffer this curse. And then he turns into this devilish giant dog that haunts people, basically. So without further ado, I'll begin the story, and it goes like this. I was on vacation in Costa Rica and thought that it would be a great idea to visit one of the volcanoes in Cadejo. My buddy Jake rented a Jeep and we started our journey up the mountains. The road there was bumpy and full of potholes, but the landscape was absolutely breathtaking. We had a fun time at the volcano, but we saw something much more interesting on the way there. Nested in between the mountains, we saw a dilapidated building. I asked Jake if he knew what it was, and he told me that he heard from the locals that it had been a sanatorium. The Sanatorium Duran was said to be the most haunted spot in all of Costa Rica, and as a curious traveler, I was intrigued. I was itching to go, but I didn't want the standard tourist experience, which sounded rather boring. So Jake and I came up with this plan. We would wait until it was dark, sneak into the property with our camping bags, and stay overnight in the main building. This plan was set, and after coming down to the volcano, we stopped at a nearby bar to wait until nighttime. We drank quite a bit, left the bar around 10 p.m. and reached the sanatorium no long after that. The sky was clear without a single cloud in sight, and the moon shined brightly upon the farmland. It was extremely easy to get in since there was only barbed wire fence between us and the property. I approached the fence, lifted the top wires carefully, and stepped on the bottom ones to create an opening. I whistled to Jake, and from the nearby bushes he ran towards me. He threw the sleeping bags over the fence and dove in. Once inside, he pulled on the wires and I hopped inside. With bags in hand, we made our way to the main building, which at this time of the night looked extremely eerie. The wood around the walls was discolored and it looked like it could fall apart at any moment. We walked into the doorless building and decided to take residence upstairs. The wooden floors creaked at our every step, and when we reached the foot of the stairs, we heard a strange noise. It sounded like a person talking in a nearby room. I looked over at Jake and said, "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" he mumbled. "There is someone else here. I hear a voice," I said nervously. "Are you chickening out? There's no one else here, trust me." I started my way up the stairs and looked carefully over the railing to find the source of the noise. Suddenly, a little girl walked out of one of the rooms downstairs and stared at me. I immediately froze. She was expressionless, her dress full of dirt, and as we stared at each other, a malicious smile began to creep up her face. I saw her walk back in the room and vanish from my eyesight. I didn't know what to do and said to Jake, "I think I want to go check something out. I'll meet you upstairs." He nodded, and I walked in the direction of the room the girl went into. I turned into the room and I saw a man with a surgical mask on and a bloody green clothing. He looked at me, pulled down the mask as if to say something, and his jaw cracked open, spewing blood all over the wooden floor. At that sight, I ran upstairs while screaming Jake's name, and when I reached the top of the stairs, I saw the sleeping bags on the floor, but there was no sight of Jake. Sweat ran down my face, and a chill crept up my spine, and at that moment, I began to hear the noise of rattling chains coming from outside the building. When I looked out the windows, I saw a huge black dog covered in chains. It looked at me for an instant with its red glowing infernal eyes, but it was looking for something else, someone else. On the field, I saw Jake and foolishly yelled at him to get his attention. As he looked in my direction, the giant dog ran at full speed towards him, and Jake, he just wasn't fast enough. That thing sunk its teeth into Jake's leg and mauled the rest of his body. I turned, grabbed my bag, and ran towards the entrance. I went down the stairs quickly and did not see a piece of wooden floor that stuck out. The object made me fall flat on my face, causing me a lot of pain, but the piece of wood came out almost entirely. It had nails on one side and I thought I could use it for protection, so I pulled it out completely and took it. I stopped short of the door and it was quiet, dead quiet. And the only sound I could hear was that of my raging heartbeat. I stuck my foot out the door and just ran towards the fence. As soon as I stepped out, I heard the chains rattling and I knew I didn't have a lot of time. I dropped my bag, gripped the wooden plank tightly around my arms. I could hear the chains getting closer and closer behind me, and at the last second, I turned and swung the plank as hard as I could. I heard a loud screech of pain, saw my hands covered in blood, and the nails of the plank pushed inside Jake's head. This is a super creepy story that I found, and honestly, I just love that it has those two elements. The elements of El Cadejo and the elements of the sanatorium. And these are two things that I think are really nicely put together in this story. If you guys like this story as much as I do, don't forget to hit the like button to let me know that you guys like stuff like this. Also, don't forget to subscribe. We put videos up every Monday and every Thursday, so hit that notification bell. And I guess I'll see you guys on the next chase.